Hey everyone, welcome to the 10 and 2 podcast. I'm Kat.
I'm Catlin.
And we're here every week talking watches, photography, adventure, and exploring the world of horology.
Very excited about this week's episode too.
Same.
So we're going to be joined by a few people. It's going to be a little bit different because we've broken that episode up a little bit. But our friends at Brinker Jewelers have a new limited edition Nomos that's coming out. So we are honored to be joined by Merlin, who is from Nomos. And then later on in this episode, we're going to hear from Dean at Brinker Jewelers and Martina from Nomos.
Yeah. So if you haven't heard, Merlin is the vice president of Nomos, and Martina, I believe, is the head of sales for the U.S. Yeah, we're super excited. This is a brand that we've both really been fond of for a long time. It's a brand that I got into when I first got into the hobby, and I love Nomos. I love their designs. We talk about them all the time, so we were really, really excited to get everyone on the show and to talk about this new limited edition, which is really, really special. So
for sure,
stay tuned. We hope you enjoy. So we are joined here today by Merlin from Nomos. How are you today, Merlin?
Very well, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for being here with us.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
No, it's a pleasure. I was very excited. I had heard from you before, and Dean from Brinkers told me about you guys. So I was very, very excited to have this done. I thought we would meet in person, but given the situation, well, we have to do it digital.
Yeah. Thank goodness there's digital though, right?
Yeah, where would we be if we didn't have digital these days?
Yeah, so many plans have changed this year, but luckily we've been able to talk to people through things like this, through Google and Zoom and all of that stuff. And it's been a blessing to get to talk to people. And we found that during COVID, as bad as it was, we were able to talk to more people because everyone was at home for so long. So it really worked out for us. But no, we are extremely excited to have you on the show today. And we've got some really cool things we're going to talk about. But first, we want to let our audience know a little bit more about yourself. So if you could let our audience know what you do for Nomos.
I always had a few hats on. It kind of evolved, if I can say so, because I started with Nomos actually as a helper during the fairs while I was in university. So that kind of evolved from there. That's also how I got kind of introduced into the world of watches. Kind of straight, of course, I always visited Glashütte when I was little. But as let's say, directly working, Basel World was my first places to do so. So I was always very excited to see everything at one place.
Yeah, it just threw you right in the fire there, too. It's not like you just started on a slow day at the office. You just went straight into it.
Yes, but I have to say it was always like the mini view of the watch world because during university, I couldn't do too long of periods of working with Nomos. So I would do the 2 weeks from Basel, helping set up the booth all the way to work at then during the fair and then help pulling it out. So I could see everything at once. And also that was 13, 14 years ago. So Basel World was a bit, I would say it was more illustrious than it was in the last few years.
Yeah. Definitely much bigger and epic, I would say.
For sure. How is it that you got into watches in general?
A little bit by, I would say, destiny, so to say, because of, I don't know if that's a big word, because of my father. I was born in Spain, actually, but my father was working in Germany, where he opened up Nomos right after the fall of the wall from Berlin. And so since I was 4 years old, I kind of got a way around watchmakers and Glashütte, so to say. And that was the real pleasure that I could really always kind of sense that and be with that environment. So this is how I got in touch with watches.
Yeah. Now, what kind of watches were you attracted to at that time?
I don't know if you have that expression in the US where they say, in the house of a shoemaker, you don't have shoes.
I'm not heard that one.
I've not heard that.
It's an expression. So I think because for me, watches was such a natural thing to grow up around, I didn't realize it until I was much older.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, it was what my father was working with. It was where I would spend a lot of time during my vacation when I was visiting him. But I didn't really embrace what watchmaking was until a little bit later. Also, when I kind of started working directly with Nomos and kind of discovered that world.
Yeah, that's easy to do, especially with Nomos.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the history of Nomos, because I think a lot of people who are just getting into the hobby and discovering the brand, they don't know too much about it. Can you tell us a little bit about the history?
So different than in Switzerland, where a lot of watch companies had I would say, a more continuous history because they started and then they have always been there. In Germany, history was always a bit more disrupted because of historical events. And also because Glashütte is in the eastern part of Germany. So until right after the Second World War, there was not that much going on. It was all, and then slowly it became one big conglomerate that was doing watches and time instruments for the whole Soviet Union. So all the companies that started now in Glashütte, which are now 11, they all started after the 90s. And Nomos was one of the first companies to start in Glashütte doing watchmaking again. And it was a time, I don't know if you can compare it to like the Klondike in Alaska, where there was like nothing going on. And all of a sudden, like people started moving there, watchmakers came back. There was this bit of a entrepreneurial spirit because many companies started back from, I don't want to say ashes, but from a little bit of being forgotten.
Yeah.
Lange started in 92. Glashütte Original, which is built on the GUB, which was the old company in Eastern Germany. They started doing watches also, I believe also like 93.
Oh, wow.
So, and Nomos started, it was founded in January 1990 and started doing the first watches in 92.
Okay.
And it launched with 4 models, which are still the same models from our, I would say, from our selection, from our, like, those are the basis for all our watches that we have now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and specifically, I mean, it's not comparable to companies like in the IT world, like Google or others. But Nomos did start with 2.5 employees back then.
2.5?
And yes, I always say 2.5 because half was actually a retired watchmaker who would just come in and help train the new watchmakers.
Oh my gosh.
So he was part-time. So he was just, he didn't have to do it, but he was doing it, of course, because for many watchmakers, Glashütte it is passion that comes out of there because it has now, this year, it's 175 years of anniversary for watchmaking in Glashütte.
Oh my gosh,
so
that's
there's
amazing.
so much history.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, how many employees does Nomos have today?
It's up to, I believe, 250, like around that, because we have, of course, we are a bit split in many places, because mainly, of course, in Glashütte, where we have to produce, because the other thing that's important and that you need to attach to Glashütte is it's a protected origin. So it's like you can only do Murano glass in Italy. You can only do certain like steels in Solingen, which is Germany. So you have to, if you want to have Glashütte on your dial, you have to produce there.
Yeah.
And so most of our staff, of course, is there. But we have a big office in Berlin, which is our communication office and kind of doing translation, social media, and it's kind of our bridge to the world.
Yeah.
And then we also have now offices in New York, Shanghai, Hong Kong, and also we have a member in Italy.
Oh,
so
wow.
we're a little bit spread.
That's awesome. You've come a long way since those two and a half.
Yes, that's for sure. But the most important thing that I like with that is when I was little, I would fly to Glashütte, and even German people would ask me, "Where are you going in Glashütte?" Like many didn't know about it.
Yeah.
And slowly it became known in Germany, and then it slowly became known in Europe, and now step by step it's known. Like if when I was visiting the US and I got stopped by the TSA when I arrived at the airport, they're like, "Oh yeah, Glashütte, I know that." Maybe they don't know the brands, all of them, but they have heard of it, and that's really cool. So that makes me happy. That's I think the best statement of how far watchmaking from Glashütte has come.
Yeah.
That it's more and more recognized.
Absolutely.
No, definitely. And I think it's really interesting because there's so much emphasis on Swiss watches over the years. Historically, Swiss made has just been, the mindset is that they're superior watches. But now you see there's such an evolution in the watch industry where you have German watchmaking really making a very strong foothold. And when you look at some of the most beautiful movements, beautifully finished movements, the most beautiful timepieces in general, a lot of them will have that Glashütte stamp on the dial. So it's really fascinating how far it's come in such a short period of time since the fall of the wall.
Yeah, no, and even I would say a lot of the history or what you were pointing out from the movements, it's even earlier than that. It's like in the 1800s, because it started in 1845 with Lange, who moved to Glashütte and started doing the first watches. And of course, back then, if something like that starts, there's a whole industry of suppliers that starts there as well, and then develops their own solutions, and still things that are in vogue today by all these watch companies. So there's a lot of things like doing a bigger wheel for the balance. It's something that came from there. I won't get too technical on that. I think that's for Dean then to talk about.
So one thing I wanted to ask about was that those original 4 models, if I've read it right, so they were designed by a woman named Suzanne Gunther. Did she design any more models later on, or were those kind of the first 4 that she only designed?
So something what's a bit specific about Nomos, it's seldom you can point like one designer, because often it has been a bit of a work together, right?
Yeah.
So my father had some of his ideas. Also, some of these watches are also inspired by earlier kind of models that had been like in the 20s, 30s.
Yeah.
But of course, doing it more modern. The idea when we launched Nomos, or what my father always said, is to combine 3 things that was then not so in vogue, because you had still quartz watches that were still like after very, very available. And then you had high, precise mechanical watches, but they were normally very expensive. So the idea was to combine the craftsmanship and to do something in Germany, in Glashütte, with a design that wasn't so much available at the time, which is so a bit, we always say that we come a little bit from the Bauhaus tradition, to make it clean, and I would say a bit reduced to the bare function of the watch. So that's kind of the idea that comes behind that. And Susanne was one of the friends from my father who worked together with him to develop those models.
Okay.
And if you look at them, all 4, they are, like if you look at the Tangente, which is the most known Nomos watch model, the Tetra is kind of the brother, but in square. And then you also have, of course, the Ludwig, which is with the Roman numerals. And then you have the Orion, which is completely different with no numbers, only indices and a bit more round shape. Yeah. Those were the 4 initial models.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Now, one thing also, when I think of Nomos now, I associate it with your beautiful in-house movements, but that wasn't always the case, correct? You started out with using more of a modified, I don't want to say ETA, I can't remember what you guys used in the beginning.
Yeah, It was a Peseux 7001.
Okay.
And the reason was because although the idea and the philosophy for Nomos was to do things ourselves and to become a manufacturer, a true manufacturer, by not only modifying movements, but by doing all the components and the movements ourselves. But at the beginning, of course, with 2.5 employees, you can't do any miracles.
Yeah.
So we started from the base, which the idea was always for my father then to make a thin watch, because mechanical watches often were automatic and they were a bit on the thicker side. So the idea was to make a very thin, elegant, functional watch where the more and more over the years we would do the components at a reasonable price.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the idea, because we started on the Peseux 7001, 92 were the first watches, and consequently we started developing the stop second for that movement, and we also did then the power reserve and the date.
Oh, wow.
Both of those complications integrated into the movement, not built on top, so that the watch would not gain thickness. So steadily we would do more and more components and modifications, so that at the end we were not even allowed to say that it was a Peseux 7001 because it was so different already. Today we are doing all our calibers in-house, which I have to correct, but it's 12 calibers that we're doing in-house. And we also do our own escapement. So we're even independent from that, where there's only, I believe, a bit more than a handful of companies in the world that can do that.
Yeah.
And we developed all of that in-house.
That's awesome. Wow, I actually didn't know that.
No, I had no idea. That's really phenomenal.
It's a long. That's why I try not to jump in time. But we kind of tried to develop all that. And our first automatic movement we launched in 2005, which was completely in-house developed. And from that moment on, we named ourselves manufacturer. Not for the modifications of the hand wound, but from the own construction of our automatic movement.
Well, that's really awesome.
Yeah.
I love that a lot. And I think one thing that I know me and Catlin have especially been fond of with Nomos is that your designs from day one, from when the company started, they weren't really specific to male and female. I think they're very unisex. And we've been asked this a million times. What watch brands stand out to us as being unisex for both genders, and Nomos is always the first one that we say,
100%,
always, and that's something we really respect from the brand. Is that, you know, yes, you're kind of leaning towards some of the larger models now, but you still have the collection of the mid and medium size watches too. Is that a tradition that you're going to continue with as well?
I hope so.
Yeah, we do too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a challenge, of course. The longer, because now we're 30 years into being, and our collection expanded already also to 12, 13 models, and we have a lot of different varieties now that we didn't have back then. Today we count more or less, with a few references that are not so much available anymore, about 85 references.
Oh, wow.
Roughly. Which is it's not so much as many others, but it's still it is a challenge, as you say, because you try to expand the line and reach customers, but of course you don't want to lose the philosophy behind the brand. And we always try that our watches, I would say, that's of course almost a bit of a personal view, but we try that the watch doesn't influence so much the wearer. You can wear, if you're a woman, a bit more sportier Nomos, and it's still a clear Nomos that can also be worn then by a man. It's not so much specific on that side. Like we don't do diamonds or too shiny. We don't work too much with metals. So it's kind of a more clear functional look.
Yeah.
Then really depends on the wearer itself.
Yeah. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, 100%. And I think one of the other things that I really love about the collection is, yes, you have over 80 different references, but even amongst the different collections, they all have a very clear design, and there's not any particular Nomos model that you look at and you would wonder from a distance if it's a Nomos or not. And I think that it really speaks a lot to the amount of detail that's put into the design. There are tons of watchmakers now who do Bauhaus designs, and that clean minimalist appearance is very popular now. But no matter what, like, you can always tell a Nomos when you see it. And I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
No, that's true. It is actually often is what I heard often from customers is when they look at watches from Nomos and they don't know Nomos yet, and then they look at them, and at the first glance, they're like, oh, they look very similar, which is good because it makes it recognizable. And then they're like, but if you look closer, you recognize, oh, there are details in this, there's a detail in that makes the difference.
Yeah.
And that's really important for us. And I think one thing that always helped us is because we're family owned and we are not so pushed to new releases, we can take a little bit of time doing them.
Yeah.
And sometimes we even didn't launch watches that were semi-ready because they weren't ready.
Really?
So it's sometimes something that helps us.
That's awesome. And I know you guys, Nomos as a brand, you don't invest a whole lot in marketing. You're obviously very present on social media and things like that, but you let your customers, you let people word of mouth spread the word on your brand. And I really appreciate that. And I think that it is working. I mean, I know a lot of, we're in Nashville, kind of, it's not a huge city in the scheme of the United States, but we have an AD now that carries Nomos. And it's like, who would have thought that this German brand would be present here in Nashville? And it's an amazing thing. And the fact that, you go to these watch club meetups and you're starting to see, brands like yours, and it's a fantastic thing. And I respect that a lot, that, you don't push so much in the marketing, and you let the customers spread the word for you. And that's something I do like a lot.
I mean, it's kind of I would say we don't have the budget as much as well, because of course you see the quality that goes into the movement, which takes a lot. And then also, as you pointed out, the work that we put into the design that sometimes go a few steps beyond, because sometimes to really find that glass or the material or to shape the locks 2 times again to make sure that they fit right, which takes a bit longer. So there's not that much budget left for marketing and a big sales team. So
well, we would rather you spend your money that way.
Right.
Exactly. But of course, it's not the way I would say some of the economics work in the recent. So it's something that we're very happy that it has worked. I believe a very important factor for that was that we are very focused on our after-sales service as well, so that we make sure that if a customer has a Nomos for 20 years, that there's always service available, that we support, that we train our dealers and watchmakers that they can provide that service and provide them with spare parts as well, so that if you put your watch into a wash machine, hope not, that you will always can repair it.
For the record, do not put your watch in a washing machine.
Well, I use that as an example because that has I did a trainee while working at Nomos for the first 2 years, and my first station was one of the biggest stations for half a year or even longer, was working in the service department. So I could really see cases coming in that I wouldn't have thought of.
Oh my gosh. I can only imagine.
I've got a story that I could talk about off this podcast, but people.
Oh, we've been there. Well, let's get into a little bit about your relationship with some of the independent jewelers, because that's why we're here today. We've got a special project that we're going to be talking about a little bit more in detail later on in the show. But, why is it so important to you that you work with some of these ADs and these jewelers?
For a few reasons, but the first was when Nomos started, 2.5 employees, all kind of as family business run, we really got the help from the retailers that actually took an unknown brand in Germany and were willing to support that to make it happen, right? So from that side, that was very important, and it's something that we're still thankful today and remember. But also the relation, I think, as I talked about the service, goes beyond just showing the watch and selling it. It goes also that after that, you know for sure where you can go if you need service, if you want to change your strap, or if then you want to expand your collection, or just to make sure that what you bought is that you like it and that it's that you get a good feedback from it, right? Yeah. So from us, if a good retailer that has often retailers that are family business and have been in the business for generations, if they're taking a brand like Nomos, which in many countries, well, we started in Germany, but only internationally in the last 6-7 years maybe, and then taking a brand from Germany where often they have to do the custom declaration and everything, and to take it in and say, no, take a look at this one because it's worth it. That gives what you said, it's the word of mouth by a trusted retailer.
Yeah.
Right? So that is one of the big points that is important for us, for the retailer.
Absolutely. Now, what about your relationship with Brinkers? How did that begin?
Well, the thing is with me, it's I often took the role of also for traveling and trying to establish this relationship with new retailers in Europe and then later on with the US. And Brinkers was one of the appointments that I had in Basel together with my colleague Martina. And you have to imagine we were not present in the US. So to have retailers that come to us and say, we looked at the brand, it looks interesting, what is this? And then that same year, or I think the second year after starting with us, Brinkers came to visit us in Glashütte as well. So often what happens with these relationships, they become more than just a business relationship. They become also a bit personal. And it's something that I think it's also a joyful part from our business, that we can meet the people that we work with and that we can visit each other and do events or let's say invite and enlarge the reach to our customers.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And especially with Brinkers, Dean has taken a big role with making the service department and the watch department at Brinkers so big and representative for his area. And I think he has a particular spot in his heart for Nomos. So that helps the relationship.
We think so too.
Yeah.
Maybe just a little.
I feel like we've learned that about Dean very quickly.
No, I think, you spoke of working with, jewelers and dealers that have a real passion for the hobby. And I'm going through my head, ADs and things like that I know carry Nomos. And I can see that they're ones that are really involved with their customers and a little bit more so than your run-of-the-mill ADs that you usually walk into. So I think that is important when you walk in and you can talk to someone that actually knows a lot about the brand and they can
is passionate about the brand.
For sure. Well, Merlin, we appreciate you being on our show today, and you're welcome back anytime, of course. We actually learned quite a bit today, and I was excited because I've been a fan of Nomos since coming into the hobby, and the designs I feel are just timeless. And I think that's something I'm attracted to with any watch that I buy. I want it to be timeless. I want it to be something that, not only looks good today, but that in 34 years is going to look just as good. So
exactly.
Oh, wonderful. For me, it's a pleasure. And also to be able to kind of share a little bit that passion. I think you can hear it also that kind of grow up into this world, and it has been a pleasure, and it's something that I really like. So giving me the chance to share it a little bit makes me very happy. So let me know. I can always tell you more and more stories about Glashütte.
We will. Yeah, we'll take you up on that for sure. 100%.
Please do.
Awesome.
And hopefully this travel lifts, and then we can see that we can meet in person as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Wishing you a wonderful afternoon. Bye-bye.
Well, and now that we've heard from Merlin with Nomos, we're going to go ahead and cut over to our chat with Dean and Martina, talking about the history of the relationship between Nomos and Brinker Jewelers, and then also some of the really unique design aesthetics that went into this limited edition piece.
Yeah. All right. And we are back with Dean from Brinkers and Martina from Nomos. How are you guys today?
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Good here in good old Germany.
Yeah.
Good to be with you.
How's the weather in Germany right now?
Actually, we have beautiful sunshine, blue sky, but cold. So it's going up. It's going up to 12 Celsius during the day, but in the morning it's 1, 2, 3, and in the evening as well. But it's beautiful. We have a beautiful late autumn. Thank you.
Too cold for Catlin, huh? Catlin's shaking her head over here. She's like, no.
75 degrees and I'm in a hoodie, so no.
It's beautiful in Glashütte and around because we are surrounded by woods and they're all reddish. We have a kind of Indian summer now but cold in Glashütte.
Yeah, I think we both would love to go to Germany one day. I think
sure.
It's higher on my list than Switzerland, to be honest with you. I would love to just go to Glashütte and look at all the factories and tours and things like that one of these days. Hopefully not too long from now.
Hopefully.
Cross our fingers.
Fingers crossed.
Things get better. But thank you guys for being on the show today. We have something really special to both of you that we're going to talk about, and that is a new limited edition watch that you guys have been working on. But yes, thank you guys for being on the show. So let's get into, Dean, let's ask you a little bit about just Brinkers and letting our audience know a little bit about your store.
Sure. We are third generation, family owned. We have been in the same location since 1972. There are still multiple family members that work within the store. I started with Brinkers in 2009 with watch service. So they didn't have watch service prior to my arrival. It was desperately needed.
Yeah.
Not only in Evansville, but in the tri-state area.
Mm-hmm.
So I started a little shop. The first one was 88 square feet.
Wow. It's pretty tiny.
Tiny. Yeah. And it was just me.
I think especially because we know, we've seen the facilities, so we know it's no longer 88 square feet.
No, it's quite a bit larger. It's about just under 1,000 square feet now, and we have multiple watchmakers, multiple benches, and we try to service every brand that we sell. Very specifically, try to partner with brands that I believe in, both from a quality standpoint and an after-sales service standpoint.
Yeah.
It's very important.
Well, I can say without a doubt, I think me and Catlin, we made a visit and we talked about this on the show a few weeks ago. When we came up there, we were very, very impressed. I think we were kind of shocked because you guys seem that you're kind of in the middle of nowhere in a sense. And granted, we didn't drive around Evansville too much.
No,
I'm sure there's a lot more to Evansville than what we saw coming in. But it's just like this amazing store. You got, it's huge, first of all, like bigger than anything we're used to.
Yeah.
And it's so well done. You guys have done an amazing job there. And yeah, the facilities and the watchmakers and everything was just so impressive.
Well, and I think it even past the facilities, it's the people. We were fortunate enough to meet so much of your team there. Everybody was beyond friendly. People who didn't know who we were, so it wasn't like they knew we were coming and were being nice. But they were incredibly friendly and so knowledgeable. And I think that's something that it's very frustrating being a watch enthusiast sometimes because you go to ADs where people aren't passionate about watches, and that's such a disappointing experience, and it really can kind of turn you off a little bit. But that's definitely not the case with Brinkers.
Well, some people might laugh when I say this, but sales kind of come naturally in second place because we are so passionate about watches and really quality in general. So watches are an embodiment of quality, of human engineering, the best that we can do. So it kind of, it flows.
Yeah.
So they say, do what you love and the money will follow. That's kind of our philosophy.
Yeah. And I could tell, when we were in there that it's a very, no pressure environment. We saw customers walking in, just looking around and talking and chatting, and And that's something I always like to see for sure, is when there's a relationship that you're building there that's more important than selling a single watch. So we really respect that a lot.
Well, and I know you mentioned that you're selective about brands that you work with. You only want to work with brands that you're passionate about. So how did your relationship with Nomos begin? Because what we just heard was that you had sought them out over at Baselworld. So how did you become familiar with them?
Well, it was kind of, so it started with a postcard.
Okay.
I received.
I
yes,
love
and I was instantly in love. It was handwritten, hand stamped, from Germany, and it had a picture of 2 watches on it, 2 Tangentes, and it simply said, we would like to send you these watches for your evaluation. If you like them, you may keep them. If you don't, please send them back. And I think I still have that postcard somewhere, because it just. I didn't understand everything at that moment, but I got it. Yeah. One, they were willing to send me watches for evaluation, so there was already a trust factor. 2, it had a kind of humble confidence to it. It was just really spot on. So I started doing my research, and in doing my research, I made a discovery. And that discovery was years prior, when I was in watchmaking school. The principal of that school was German-born. And when we were first-year students, he told us about a watch brand that was growing and learning how to manufacture watches completely in-house. Mm-hmm. And he told a little bit of a story. He never told us which brand, and it wasn't until many years later that I discovered he was referring to Nomos.
Oh, wow. So
the story that Merlin told previously about all the work they've done to bring manufacturing in-house was, in fact true. And that meant quite a lot to me.
Yeah.
So I made an appointment, a Baselworld appointment, and they were, gracious enough to accept. And the rest is history. The Kyle Brinker, the CFO, traveled with me that year, and he got it too. And he saw the look in my eye, and it was just, there was no going back.
Yeah.
we just marched forward.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's true for so many, especially, I've heard that with Nomos, is just, there's something about it. And it's truly unlike anything else that's out there, really. And I know certainly for me, I was smitten when I first, I've had several in my collection now. I keep going back on certain models, but it's just one of those things that it's one of the watches that you love when you first get into the hobby, and then you still like them, years and years later. When you've learned even more, you appreciate them a lot more too. So, no, that's awesome. And then Martina, what is your position with Nomos?
So I began with Nomos already on a very, very small scale in 1992 already.
Oh, wow.
But only for a few hours per week as a freelance PR worker. So that was, I was at that time in an agency, and our Merlin's father, our owner and founder, who was looking for help in his first years, and that was my role very long, doing all the press work and PR relations. And then when Nomos grew, and we decided to dare the step outside of Germany, we thought, okay, which markets could we address? The only thing we have is English as language on the website and in the catalog. So let's try the UK and the States. So that was, that's many years it was PR. And when we stepped out into the world, I took over the role, to explore the world in terms of sales for Nomos, because you must imagine in the eastern part of Germany, many people grew up with Russian as their second language and not English. So it was quite a challenge for the organization to operate in English. And I was one of the few people who studied languages, but still in our bookkeeping, it's only a few people. it's just not you don't think about it when you're American because everybody speaks your language.
Yeah.
But it's different. It's different the other way around.
Yeah.
That's Glashütte is a legendary place in Germany in terms of watchmaking, and I would say the national pride in Germany that we have fine watchmaking again in the country and not only in Switzerland helped all the Glashütte brands quite a lot in the beginning, in the 90s. But bringing this message out to the rest of the world was quite a challenge. And when I want to refer to Dean's comment on the watchmaking school. Funny enough, we are supporting the state's watchmaking school in Glashütte very much. So since 2005, since we are a full or even longer. But I'm quite sure since 2005, since we are full-fledged manufacturer, every student has as his final exam a tangente, and is taking it apart and putting it together again, and every student leaves the house with his personal tangente, with his exam piece. Yeah.
Oh,
so
nice.
Yeah.
I have to check how many these were in the past 15 years, but that's still the case. So all the watchmakers educated in Glashütte and going out into the world know about Nomos and in depth. So
yeah, that's very awesome.
They didn't offer that when I was in watchmaking school. Can I go back and take the test and get my own?
So that's you should have gone to watchmaking school in Glashütte, Dean.
I tried.
That's your fault, Dean. Okay, just to be clear.
It is my fault.
Let's speak about an ambassador watch for you.
I like the sound of that. Love the sound of that.
I know that you know how to take care of it.
Dean's out there taking lifestyle shots.
Yeah.
For the gram. Well, so how did your relationship come about together where we're sitting here talking about this new project?
Well, Martina and I actually met at the first visit at Basel World. So we've known each other, since the beginning. This project started, obviously several years later. We wanted to produce a collaboration in partnership with Nomos. It was very important to us. And it took quite some time to get all the design details worked out, several years. And, everyone's been involved from the watchmakers in Glashütte to the design facility in Berlin, Martina, Merlin, everyone. Yeah, that's essentially it. Martina has been instrumental in helping us realize this dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we spoke quite a long time before that project already about a limited edition at someday, because Nomos is quite good in limited editions.
Yes.
That's one of the advantages when you produce everything yourself. Of course, we still buy cases and dials, but it's always a wonderful thing to develop a product together. And it was super special with this project because we did something which we never did before. And actually, this idea came from you, Dean, I think, to have a case with a matte finish. Yeah, there's a reason why we never did this. Because, polishing steel is so much more work and it's so much more effort, and because of that more expensive than a matte finish.
Yeah,
that's easier. Buying a matte finished case is would be easier for our calculation as well.
Yeah.
But it's when it's worn over a period of time, you see you easily see where the watch is touched very often, where it's scratched very often, and some parts of the case may get polished by wearing it, and it's and a polished case you can always over polish. You can always kind of go over the scratches at the service at Brinkers and have your Nomos polished again, and it looks like completely new. So that's why we decided to go polished only. And it took us a while to find out how we could do this special, the Model Club, with which we do the limited edition, three different versions, is the only watch we have with a slightly bolder bezel.
Okay.
All the other Nomos watches have a very slim bezel. You see a big part of the dial. So Club has a bolder bezel where it really kind of matters, or you can see more of the matte finish in this watch. And then we first started to research how can we realize this with our kind of quality requirements, and we found a way to have a final hardening process for the cases, so that they are better protected against scratches and unwanted polishing.
Oh wow!
So that was the most challenging technical part on this limited, and indeed very exciting because it's a premiere.
Yeah, it's super exciting.
It's something that you guys haven't done before either. I mean, this is something completely new, and it is so different than what Nomos has done in the past, and I think that's what really stands out. And it's good to hear that you've found a process that would protect, because that's going to be the first thing that people ask is it's a matte finish, it's going to scratch really easily, and then you've got it protected. What kind of process does it go through?
Hardening metal is always a galvanizing process. So it's and it just goes through another bath at the end, because there is no polishing.
Yeah.
I asked the product management for some technical data about that, but I hope we can deliver those soon. I just didn't receive them until
that's
today.
Fine. And we can always we'll put it on our website along with the show notes as well. So if you're listening to the show and you want to know a little bit more about the case, then head on to our website and we'll have the information on there.
For sure. Well, so Dean, why were you so insistent on a matte finished case? Not that I'm complaining, because I 100% love this.
Well, thank you very much. It's one, it's different. Two, I feel that in a matte finish, color is represented differently than when it is polished. There are so many things out in the world that are polished. A matte finish stood out a little bit. And I operate on the slightly different set of rules when it comes to wear and tear. I think that that time leaves its mark on quality things, and I appreciate that, like bronze statues, fine leather goods. I appreciate that over a period. It's a watch's history, or it's an article's history. So I like that kind of thing. There's no going back. You start your life with this Nomos, and in 20 years, it will have its own fingerprint. Yeah. Its own uniqueness that is specific to you. So we carried through the matte finish from the case. I'm so thankful that they jumped through all the hoops to make that possible.
Yeah.
And it's not easy with our design police.
The design police.
Well, I had a heavy hitter in my corner in Martina and in Merlin, so extremely thankful for that. But we carried the matte finish all the way through the dial, and I think from a legibility standpoint, that really shows.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, the matte finishing of the case helps the color stand out more to me. I think it would look completely different with a polished case, and I don't think, the colors that you guys went with, the light blue here, it certainly stands out to me and pops a little bit more than it would had it been polished.
I agree, and thank you. I definitely wanted to create a piece that was indicative of our passion, our history with Nomos itself, a showstopper, so to speak.
Yeah.
Where people just it stands out. They go, "What is that?" and they dig deeper.
The actual one, the 48 with the gray shade was quite special, because when you're designing on the screen, when you work with renderings and try out different kind of shades, it's not easy to simulate the matte finish of the case, and how it matches with the dial. We had a first prototype which was just too shiny, right, Dean?
Yes.
And where the dial in a different angle of light seemed either too dark or either too shiny and too bright. So it was only with the second round and with another prototype that we were happy with the actual color.
Yeah.
It took us a while. Yeah.
Oh, I can imagine.
Well, make no mistake, the original prototype to which you refer is a coveted piece right now, and I understand it's going to go back into the Nomos archives, but there's going to be a few tears shed here in the United States when that watch leaves.
Okay, should I speak to product management?
Maybe
for
because it's
a long-term loan or stuff like that.
This is his ambassadorship piece. There you go.
Oh, that is a very good point.
You are.
That is an excellent point.
Yeah, let's talk about that later.
Oh, well, there you go, Dee.
Thank you. Checks in the mail.
Yeah, when you're speaking about the matte finish, Brinkers wouldn't be Brinkers when we wouldn't have thought of matte clasps as well.
Yeah.
Also something what was not easy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I had a lot of big asks on this one.
This attention to detail.
If you had done a high polish finish, it would not have made sense whatsoever. And I know from my experience with you that paying attention to clasp detail is something that is very important to you. And I appreciate that and I respect that, because when I had purchased a leather strap from you, you were very particular about making sure that it matched the case of my watch. But yeah, it's one of those details that you need to pay attention to, because Nomos isn't necessarily the watch that people who haven't heard from watch or who are brand new to the hobby are going to pick up first. It's more for, I think, the enthusiasts, people who really kind of know what they're looking at, and that's a detail that matters.
Yeah, I think it's a feature our brand has, this attention to detail, and it's certainly something we share with Brinkers. I mean, Dean didn't stop working before we had the perfect watch, and as he and his colleagues operate at Brinkers. We do the same. We do the same in our design department as well as in the workshops.
Yeah.
Well, I think that good design and good execution is not a single thing. It is an accumulation of those small details, and when you leave those details out, they can start to add up and contribute to a product that is lesser than it could be. And I think when you have a watch that is not only the accumulation of, now 30 years of tireless work, but also from a region, celebrating its 175th anniversary, to make such I know it's a French word, but a phrase, but faux pas is just unacceptable.
But that's the fun thing about working on limited editions. You have all this in like a microcosmos. You know, you're doing this with your own. You're doing this with your own watch for. It's only 50 pieces. It's only for your store, and you can kind of repeat this birth process. That's really. There goes so much work into limited editions. They should be much more expensive. but it's always fun projects, and this was in particular, it was really, and of course we are still working on it. So
absolutely. Now, how much will this retail for?
The retail price is $21.50.
And then just kind of talking a little bit about the details, I just want to get into the case back a little bit. Is this going to be an open or closed case back?
It is a museum back or a display back.
Okay.
Nice. Perfect. It's limited to 50 pieces. Is that correct?
Correct. But like all limited editions, there's a few that will never make it to market. Like a couple of the
like
low
numbers,
like number 1, like number 2, another special one that Martina knows about. The number 48 is not available of this particular piece.
Interesting.
So why is 48 not available? Because that's a very specific number.
Well, again, that attention to detail, because it is number 48 is celebrating our 48th year.
Nice.
In business this fall, so. Yeah, that's that.
Starting the countdown to 50.
To 50, yes, that's coming up soon.
Yeah.
We
are doing exactly the same. So every new model Nomos is introducing, number 1 to 10. So obviously every single watch is numbered individually. And also the movements have their individual numbers. So this makes the passport of the watch.
Okay.
But all... from the number 1 to 10 always stay in the house. So these are very special pieces. Yeah,
absolutely.
And it's the kind of the last resort. They are only used up for for very important occasions.
Yeah. So Dean, we mentioned this is going to be the 48th year for your 48th anniversary of Brinkers. And can we expect to see something next year and perhaps for the 50th?
Yes. And that's all I'm telling you.
Okay.
All right.
That's all we got.
That's all we got, folks. Sorry.
But the answer is yes.
Awesome.
But if you swing by the shop, I am someone who purchases gifts for people, and I am incapable of waiting till the occasion. So maybe if you catch me in the right mood, you might get a sneak peek.
You can get all the scoop.
There you go. Go buy Brinkers.
Yes. This you have in common with our boss. So Merlin's father is not able to keep a secret when it comes to chit chat in the branch, or if it's new watches or new movements. So we always keep him away from the journalists we don't trust.
Yes. Keep me away from the journalists that you don't trust.
Yeah, we won't pester too much. That is exciting to hear, though. It's so fun. It's hard to keep a secret when it's so exciting.
I could never keep a secret like that.
Okay.
Well,
Dean, don't talk to Catlin then.
Wait, no, I've seen them, and I will keep that secret. But if we ever did anything, I can't keep a secret.
It's very hard.
Not like that. It's too much pressure.
Well, we are very, very excited about this piece. We appreciate you guys coming on the show today to talk a little bit more about it. Yeah, and I guess the best way for someone, if you want to purchase one of these pieces, is to get in contact with Brinkers.
That is correct. Brinkers is the only place that you'll be able to purchase.
Yep, we are giving all of them away, including 1 to 10.
Yeah,
including 1 to 10.
Oh wow, awesome.
Well, we'll have pictures of everything in our show notes so that everybody can come and check this out. The watch is absolutely stunning. Kat and I saw it when we made our visit up to Brinker Jewelers a few weeks ago, and just really beautiful attention to detail. So very excited about this and to see what comes up next.
Yeah.
All right, Dean and Martina, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. We hope you guys had a good time. Both of your first podcasts. So
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. It was fun. Yeah, we can do this more often, Dean.
Yes, absolutely.
Y'all are going to start your own
I feel like a
podcast
veteran
now.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dean and Martina. That's easy.
All right. Well, with that, I think we're going to close out and we will talk to everybody later.
All right. Bye.
All right. Thanks
Thanks very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you guys for listening. We hope you enjoyed the show today.
Yeah, be sure to head over to our website, www.tennand2.com. We'll have show notes. We'll have some links to everything where you can check out this timepiece. Also, be sure if you're interested to check out our friends Brinker Jewelers. We'll have links to their website and everything in those show notes.
Yeah.
And follow along and on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter @10and2media.
Yeah.
Bye, y'all.